Hey everyone, welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a special episode with a special guest. So, Dr. Jacob Kashiwagi, thank you so much for joining us today here on EduMatch.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. The pleasure is definitely mine. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Jacob. So Dr. Jacob is a thought leader in leadership development, procurement, project management, and supply chain management. And he has such a stellar track record. I just learned that he has also been in the higher ed world and teaching classes to students at the university. But in addition, today we're going to talk about student well-being. So Dr. Jacob has actually just written a book, In Search of Truth, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. So if you could tell us a little bit about your background and what was the catalyst for your interest in student well-being?
So ever since I was young, I've always enjoyed teaching, and I've always find ways in which I could get as many people together to help. And so I've always had an interest in people. And I actually started nowhere in near teaching high school students or teaching younger students. I went into supply chain management. My background is really in business. I went around for I still go around, so for about almost 20 years now. I have been going around helping large organizations all over the world become more efficient. But for part of my stint, I was at Arizona State University teaching for about 10 years. And they hired me as a research professor. So, not really to teach, but to bring in business and money to the university to develop new technologies and improve business processes. But while I was there voluntarily, I decided to start teaching. And during that time, I taught an honors course at ASU, which is a top 10% of students at Arizona State University. And for 4 years, I taught over 1,000 students. And so around 200 students a semester, over the course of 5 or 6 classes. And during that time, I realized that the number one issue they had was being able to sleep at night. And I started realizing there's big issues with the mental wellness and stability of even the brightest students coming out of high school. And it kind of worried me. And as I started teaching professionals, and I went all over the world teaching professionals, anyone in business starts to realize that when you're teaching 50, 60-year-old people, they're not going to change. How many organizations I went to teach in trying to help them improve, and they improved while I was there. But as soon as I left, they went right back to their old ways. And so I started to realize if I wanted to make a difference in society, I had to go and teach the younger generation.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. So your story is just so empowering. So definitely appreciate you sharing that with us. And I know that we were having some chat before the show, and we were talking about how important this topic really is in terms of addressing the needs of the whole student. So really
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing that up. So could you tell us a little bit about your new book, In Search of Truth?
So, In Search of Truth was just kind of putting my ideas on what makes people successful in life. So it wasn't really directed towards students or anyone in particular. It was focused towards the individual. And the basic idea is number one thing that will help you become successful in life is being able to see reality, to see what's accurate, what's correct in life. And it's really what school should be teaching students is how to find out what is correct. People who see reality become the most successful in life. And amazingly, you don't have to pay a lot of money. You don't have to go through a lot of years of school to figure this out. Finding reality is very simple. Finding the truth is simple. And nobody really has to tell you what to do. There are some easy steps. And the biggest thing that will help a person improve in their life and see the truth is getting over their own mind. Nowadays, school is always telling students, think, but students don't have a lot in their head. In fact, even adults don't have a lot in their head. I always tell students, reality is always more important than what's in your mind. So you gotta actually open your mind and admit that maybe you don't know everything. And maybe the things that you thought were 100% true and you knew 100% that it was correct, maybe you're actually wrong. So maybe you need to be a little bit more open to listening. Maybe you need to be more accepting of what other people do. And maybe if you actually opened up a little bit more, you'd be able to see more reality and be happier.
Wow. So I like what I'm hearing, because what I'm hearing you say is like focusing on teaching students to be lifelong learners and seekers of truth. So I really can get behind that message. So I wanted to say really quickly hello to everyone who's watching us live. I see that there are a few of you, so please feel free to jump in the YouTube live chat and just say hello or ask if you have any questions for Dr. Jacob. All right, so at EduMatch, a lot of us have a keen interest in student well-being as well as social emotional learning. So could you tell us, why is this such a critical issue in schools today?
I think what makes this the biggest issue is that you're shaping the lives of our next generation. So if the students aren't stable, then they're going to eventually grow up. And everything they're learning, uh, everything that they're trying to become is going to stem from that. And in looking at society, you're finding emotional health and mental diseases are on a rise. You're talking about people who are doing things that are, uh, when you look at society, that seem crazy, are on a rise. You have suicide rates are on a rise. You have depression rates. When you look at the stability of the economy and of society, you see there's a direct relationship with what's going on in our schools as well. And so you solve the issue in school, you solve the issue in giving society a better future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we can all be part of the solution at the school level, and definitely one thing that I've heard other educators say is Maslow's before Bloom. So meeting those fundamental needs before any kind of learning can take place. So absolutely, wanted to say hello to David, who chimed in the chat. So he was asking about why don't more people know about this, and yeah, David, definitely trying to get the message out there. I think he was referring to your comment about being open-minded and broadening horizons. So so fantastic. Okay,
Sure,
so
yeah.
so Dr. Jacob, you've created a nonprofit organization to help students and educators tackle this epidemic that you just described. So tell us please about the Leadership Society of Arizona and strategies that you implement.
Okay. First, I didn't really start it on my own. In reality, the two people who started it is Alfredo Rivera and Jake Gano. They were both PhD students of mine. And they came into my college course and they asked the question, why weren't we taught these ideas in high school? It would have made our life so much easier. And they actually went and ran for some competitions at ASU, entrepreneurship type competitions, and they won. And they received funding to help start the organization. And I have been a mentor to them, and I've helped guide them in developing it. But really, the credit goes to them and other people involved in the organization. But what we do is really we're out there to try to be something that parents can interact with their children, with their students, that will supplement the other education that they're receiving. And in my view, to give them what education was supposed to give them in the first place, which is, I believe education was always meant to try to help people be happier, help people to be productive and value added citizens, and to help people to be stable in their life. And so that's what we try to do. And we try to do it through really simplifying life. Education, it's made things very complicated. It tries to shove a lot of information at students when they're very young with little experience. And we found whenever you do that, it destabilizes a child. It confuses them and it stresses them out. And so our purpose is to find bright students, to find students that might not be doing so well, to find struggling students, and then to simplify life for them that will allow them to perform not only in school, but also to figure out what they were meant for in life and allow them to be successful.
I love that mission. I love that mission. I know that a lot of educators would agree with what you just said, because there's so many mandates that are placed on the educational system a lot of times, and the well-being, the happiness of the child, a lot of times, by mandates that come down the pike, it kind of gets pushed to the side. So, really
Yeah.
appreciated you bringing that point up. So, what have been the results of your work thus far, and what are some future goals for the program?
The results have been amazing. We have went in and taught Title I kids, kids who lack resources and coming from very unstable environments. We've taught Title VI kids who are Native American students who are coming from reservations, oftentimes 3 to 4 grades behind their grade level coming to the US. We've also taught very high-end kids, kids who are coming from a lot of resources and who have IQs that are probably way off the chart, probably much higher than my own. And what we have found is that as we have simplified life for the students, as we help them focus on what we have felt has been the most important, which is helping them to change, improve each day. We have found that student stress levels go down dramatically. Their happiness level goes up. Their grades, standardized test scores go up. Their relationships get repaired. Their families get strengthened. It's amazing. The list can go on. They overcome things like bullying, depression. They're able to make reprimands with issues with parents that they've had for years. And they're able to find good jobs. They're able to go on to college and be successful. So there's all sorts of benefits that we've seen, but in every case, uh, we've seen great results in terms of the students and in how they're able to progress.
That's fantastic because our students, with everything that they bring to the table, their strengths as well as their challenges, simplifying the process for the child, I can definitely see the benefit in it. So, could you elaborate a little bit more on what this simplification might look like?
Yes, we have three focuses in our teaching method. The first, it's student-centered, meaning we figure out who the student is and we actually let them help tell us what they want and what's going to help them in their life. Two, it's simplicity structured. This means anything we teach takes no more than 10 minutes to teach. Every little principle that we have, it's very simple and easy to understand. We actually call them natural laws. It's like holding up this water bottle. This is what we call simple, because if I release it, everybody knows which way it's going, down. Don't have to think about it. You don't have to have a lot of training on it. Because of the law of gravity, the law of gravity makes life simple. We know any object that you release is going to fall. I can be anywhere in the world. I can be holding anything. Everybody knows what's going to happen. There are things like this in life, natural laws that help you understand why people act the way they are, who you are, what you're supposed to be doing. And so we teach these simple natural laws to the students. And The third focus we have, or the third kind of center idea we have, is it's change focused. Change focused means all we're helping the student do is find something in their life to improve upon. What we have found is a student that changes and improves every day is a student that's going to get better grades, is a student that's going to add more value to everyone around them, including society, is a student that's going to be happier in their life. And they don't have to worry about a lot of these different things like networking or like trying to join different clubs or like trying to do like all these different things that, nowadays you feel you have to do to be successful. We just focus it on one little thing that they can improve every day.
Definitely. Definitely that minimalist paradigm. I love it because that's definitely something that that a lot of us as adults can also use to our benefit to improve our lives. So great.
Yeah.
Great. So you just gave us a few tangible steps that our audience could implement in their schools, districts, and classrooms. Do you have any other tips for anyone watching, how they can maybe take a strategy and use it maybe tomorrow with their students?
Okay, if I was to give teachers advice who are watching or might watch this, I tell them first we need a paradigm change, which is going to be the toughest. It's nothing you actually have to do. It's something you have to change. And the change that needs to be made, why we're at school. The focus is on the student and making sure that they do well. Now, I know there's a lot of good teachers that have already had this focus, but to be reminding yourself of that every day is so vital. I've been in the K-12 environment, and I know how easy it is to go in every day and forget why you're there, especially with all of the mandates and all of the requirements you have. Second thing that everybody can do, regardless of what mandates you have, is to spend time every day getting to know your students. When I was in college, I would actually track every single student. I'd have up to 250 a semester, so only for half a year. I would try to interview each student when they came into my class. So I'd have signups and I'd make sure I talked to each student individually, asking them where they're coming from, what they need, who they are, what their goals are. I have found that the more you get to know your students, the more you can shape your curriculum to benefit them more and to put something at their level. The third thing I have is to be lenient. So when a student isn't following the rules, when they're not doing well, talk with the student, figure out what you can do to help that student. It could be that, you tell them, hey, forget half the assignments. If they're not turning any assignments in anyway, then, you're not really doing a lot. But if you can get them to do one more than they're used to, if you can just get them to change a little bit, having a goal to change, something the student wants to change. If you help them to change just a little bit in your classroom, then you're going to see them do better in your class and better overall in their life.
Okay, baby steps, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a question come in on YouTube Live. So Piro Reaper 14 said it's like Marie Kondo for the brain and asks, what's the number one thing you tell new students?
The number one thing I tell new students is you can't make a mistake. Nobody determines your value but you. A lot of students, especially in the Title I environment, they're being told every day they're not good enough. They're not smart enough, that they're not getting good enough grades to be successful, that because they don't fit the academic view of what intelligent is, that they no longer have a future. And that's what they're being told. Because it's impossible for them to get good grades, or it's impossible for them to be able to do everything to be the number one student. But I tell them, look, You'll make mistakes. You might not get the best of grades, but that doesn't determine your value in life. Everybody has value. So when you figure out what your talent is, there's many people who went through school that didn't get good grades that are millionaires. There are many people who didn't even go to school and are millionaires and successful and happy. There are many people who went through school and were really good and got good grades and are successful. So there is no one way in life for everybody. So I tell students, I have no expectations. I just want you to be who you are. And I'm just going to help you be able to figure that out so that you can do what you love in life and be successful.
Absolutely. So the goal setting, like each person sets their own goals, and they're the person who determines whether or not they're successful. I love that. I love that.
Now,
Go
this
ahead.
is really hard.
Okay.
This is not an easy thing for teachers to do because you have to be innovative. Sometimes you set a goal with the student and the student doesn't do anything still. Well, a lot of times you say, well, the student, they just aren't motivated enough. But I say, you didn't set the right goal. Maybe you got to go even smaller steps. Maybe instead of not playing any video games during classroom, maybe it's like spend just 2 minutes listening to me as a teacher, you know? But it requires creativity and it requires a lot of patience on the teacher's part. So I understand how difficult it is.
Absolutely. I know, we all want the best for our students. So I think that the advice, what you're saying of breaking things down into chunks, I've heard someone say that any step forward is a step in the right direction. So definitely building on that. So I love that. So what can we expect to see from you and from Leadership Society of America in the future, or I'm sorry, of Arizona in the future?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we're trying to do. One, we're trying to really spread our reach. We're only in Arizona right now, but we're hoping to actually spread to all of the US and not in terms of trying to get bigger. We're not really trying to get bigger. We're just trying to make sure we're known enough so that if a student is having issues and can use our support, that we can get to that student or that teacher who would like to apply the principles more fully. And so we're just really trying to get our name out there and what we're doing a little farther out there. We have been testing doing one-on-one mentoring with students that might be just struggling with stress or whatever it might be. And we've been finding great results on that. It's amazing how if the student finds an adult who is thinking of them, even they don't have to spend a lot of time with them, but they know they're thinking of them. It's amazing how much good that will do for that student. And so one of the things we're also trying to do is write more books that will help teachers be able to understand these ideas and to be able to help them know what they can do in their classrooms, even with their restrictions and their regulations they have to adhere to.
Absolutely. Well, that is a fantastic mission. I definitely applaud you in that and wish you the best.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time out. So, if anyone wants to connect with you online, then how can they find you and connect with you or with your organization?
The best way is to send me an email. It's jacob.k@leadaz.org. That's leadaz.org. And the other way is to go to the website, which is leadaz.org. So,
Nice. Very easy to remember. So
yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come chat with us. And thank you to everyone who was tuning in. This will be put out as a podcast as well as a replay on Facebook in the coming weeks. Please join us back on Sunday. We have an EduMatch triple header, 6 p.m. We will be doing Tweet and Talk with Mary Alice Curran talking about digital citizenship. 7 o'clock special episode with Lynn Cologne. And 7:45 special episode with Lynn Cologne. 7 o'clock special episode with Pass the Scope EDU. So the link is the same, podcast with an s.edumatch.org/tweet talk. If you want to sign up for the the digital citizenship panel, then podcastwithness.edumatch.org/sign up. So everyone have a fantastic week, and we will see you back Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern.